The FTC has reported that in 2020, romance scams cost people $304 million, up about 50% from 2019 and up about fourfold since 2016. Now, of course, many of these are person to person and have happened to people of all genders, and this hints at a deeper issue within the dating industry, especially targeted towards men. Because romance is often where people are at their most vulnerable. We all want to be desired and loved at our core psychological needs, and if you've been lonely for a while, then you are easy prey. And this is something I've been fighting against my entire time as a dating coach, because the industry as a whole and becoming a dating expert is completely like the Wild West. It's unregulated. Anybody at this point can market themselves as a dating coach or expert. There's no university degree for becoming a dating coach like a therapist. And yes, there is certification programs, but they're not really anything substantial. They're just their own made up curriculum. You go through the whole process for a while, and then you get stamped a certificate, usually for a certain amount of money. So while there are some great coaches in the industry, it also attracts a lot of e-marketers and people who just think this is a great way to make money and approach this in a very unhealthy way. They kind of approach it the same way the fitness industry does, where they give quick false promises to immediate success. The fitness industry doesn't say do this program for a year and then basically continue this for the rest of your life and you'll be in great shape and actually healthy. No, a lot of it is diet pills and magic tricks and secret new workout routines that'll shred everything in 30 days because they know that's what sells fast. And it's absolutely been a challenge for me because I refuse to say that to people. I refuse to tell people that there is one magic trick, one secret text, one perfect line to solving your problems. I know that growing in dating and romance requires real work and it's an ongoing journey. And unfortunately, it's gotten a lot worse since I started. When I began, you just had a few people that threw up some landing page sites, promoting their coaching. But nowadays, you have experts everywhere on YouTube and TikTok and live streaming, and they're perpetuating unhealthy perspectives that I think are misleading people. I'm Nick Notas, and today I want to pull back the curtain on the dating advice industry and tell you things that most dating coaches will never admit, because if they did, it would end up hurting their bottom line. Now, before we get started, if you believe in our message of giving healthy dating advice, hit the subscribe, click the notification bell, and give us a quick like. You can't attract every woman. I'm sorry, but those, hype programs of learn this formula and every single woman will fall in love with you immediately is BS. Companies don't want to say, try these things and get rejected by some women so you can attract others. It just isn't as sexy. And I get it, because if you tell men that, they have to really reconcile that they're going to have to endure some painful social interactions to get better at these things. Because women have different tastes and preferences like we do. They don't all like the same thing. That could be about tons of things, general personality, height, race, where you're from, views, monetary status, and a whole host of things. If there was some guy that could magically attract every woman in the world, I would quit my job and dedicate my life to studying under his ethereal wisdom. But it doesn't exist. The great thing is, though, that you can attract a lot of women and more people than you would ever want to connect with in your life if you put yourself out there. Yes, you will have to go through some experiences and grow and have awkward and clunky moments, but when you accept this, you can start to build resilience and weed out incompatibility and create a great romantic life for you filled with an abundance of connections. Embrace rejection, for it leads to success. You'll never completely eliminate approach anxiety, and I don't think you should. We are human. We are supposed to feel emotional responses to certain things, and that includes anxiety or fear. If you see someone that's brand new and there's a lot of unknowns and they're beautiful and you're trying to make a good impression, it is normal to feel some sort of butterflies. And if you try to remove that, then you are numbing yourself to human emotions. And the people that tend to do that, I don't think have great human connections. I have had thousands of interactions with random women, and still at times you get butterflies, or your hands are a little shaky, or your heart rate is elevated, and that is completely normal. In fact, if you try to numb yourself to that, and you don't want those things, then really you're numbing a whole host of emotions, and I don't think you actually make great human connections. I've seen guys really try to shove this down and ignore it and pretend like they're fearless, but as Carl Jung said, what resists persists. So the more you fight against your normal emotions, the more it will have control over you. And that's the key. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to still find ways to take action and move through your fears. Because when you do, you'll get reference experiences, both good and bad, that'll prove to you that you're capable, that you can handle whatever is thrown at you, and that you can always find more opportunities to meet someone. Every time you start putting yourself out there to talk to people, you will gain more control over your social anxiety, and it will be less likely that it will hold you back. There is no formula to dating success. As much as some of the dating industry would like you to believe that women are math equations that you just need to figure out, they are not. Again, there is no specific line, tactic, or step-by-step process to attract women. Unfortunately, one-size-fits-all solutions sell really well. If you tell a guy, just learn these 3 secret texts and every single woman will respond and come out to meet you, that is really, really enticing. So guys end up focusing on the little micro details instead of the macro, and they calculate every step of the way that they're talking to someone, where they think, okay, I need to use this line to approach them. I need to position myself at this exact 45 in 1 minute. Then I need to make sure I bring up this story. Then I'll invite her out at exactly this time. And they're constantly in their head instead of being present in the moment. What does work is understanding the macro concepts and applying that naturally to your personality and more organically in the moment and being fluid with it. So as long as you understand the bigger concepts around, having good body language and having great eye contact, creating physical contact, when you want to show interest, showing interest in general, being a leader and more decisive, and those kind of bigger picture ideas, that's what's going to make a difference. You don't need to obsess on the exact timing of these things or memorizing a certain line to implement them. You need to understand them on a theoretical, deeper level and start integrating it more holistically into your personality. I've watched hundreds of guys of all different types, from all different backgrounds, use these ideas in all sorts of combinations at all different timings, and it can all work great. Learn to integrate these ideas into your own personality to become a more confident version of yourself, rather than trying to box yourself into becoming somebody else or some pickup artist. And you probably already assumed this by now, but this is not an overnight process. Learning these things requires dedication, introspection, application, gaining experience, adjusting, putting yourself back out there again, and kind of the bigger journey, rather than just doing this a few times and suddenly it's all going to click. There are no shortcuts, but the investment pays off immeasurably for the rest of your life. Because the irony is, a lot of men start learning how to get better at dating and meeting women and being confident around them. And what they realize is that process helps them accept themselves, become the most confident and charismatic version of themselves, and apply these things to basically every human connection in their life. And that's something we should always keep working on. And that's why weekend approaching bootcamps aren't worth your money. I'm talking about these programs where they say, come out to an event, usually in a hotel room, for a few hours. We're going to talk about how to meet women. And then they take you out to bars for a few hours. Maybe you rent some bottle service. And really the focus is on, if you do these things and you practice approaching with us for a couple of hours, then suddenly all your problems are solved. Now, of course, will you get some benefit out of that? Absolutely. But is it worth the multi-thousands of dollars that they usually charge? I don't think so. This is why when my now business partner Julian came to me about doing retreats, I was skeptical, because I had seen the industry in all these kind of programs and I didn't think it really changed men. But he promised me there was a way to do it better. And now that we've done it for over the years, we realized how much more is involved than just teaching men to approach. We create these events for longer, usually 4.5, maybe 5 days. We don't just show up to a conference room and talk, but rather we rent a house and all the coaching staff and all the clients live together for all that time. When we're teaching these men inside the house, we're not focusing on how to approach and meet women, but all the bigger picture things around what makes somebody self-confident and how to get your headspace right, how to manage anxieties, general great social skills, and all the other bigger picture things that are going to help with learning how to meet women. But we also really live together, where we go out to meals together and we actually hang out as friends and go to the beach and open up and really create a vulnerable space where people can make friendships and explore their deepest insecurities without judgment. And that's where people grow. And even when we're going out, we do not make it about like, hey, go approach girls for 4 hours. It's about being social humans. It's about talking to people in more organic ways and more honestly without like memorizing lines and just trying to put them into a real human headspace of like, here's how you talk to people as a person in your natural life rather than here's how I go out to bars to pick up girls for 2 hours. And finally, we also like created a community and ongoing support where we have calls and check-ins because we know that people grow over time and they need a little bit of that support and motivation for things to really sink in. I'm not saying any of this to sell the next retreat or anything. We don't even have one planned because of the pandemic, but rather to drill in the idea that learning these skills with women and becoming a more emotionally stable and mature and confident person requires time like anything else. Compare it to something like learning a new language or learning to cook. Of course, you can take a cooking class and learn some culinary basics over a day or two, but to hone your knife skills, understand complex flavor profiles, and learn how to create amazing dishes on the fly is going to require ongoing work and bigger picture thinking. So I'm not against all sorts of retreats and getaways nowadays, but specifically the ones that are really focused on 2-day events, mostly approaching, really focused on picking up women and missing everything else about the human experience, sharing friendships, learning other ideas, and getting more time to practice during the event and after. That's where you're going to actually grow. You shouldn't believe everything you read or see about meeting women. You know, there are thousands of blog posts and articles and videos where men talk about and showcase their approaches with real women. And from the outside, it looks like magic, right? Especially with YouTube videos, you see some guys go up to women, they're really funny and silly and goofy, and they hit it off. And in most men's heads, that's like the pinnacle. That's why those videos are so incredibly enticing, because we all want to be able to do that ourselves. But the problem is that these are often carefully manufactured and don't show you the whole picture. Okay, yes, some of those guys can actually go up to women and talk to them. Sometimes they are plants or scripts or hired actresses. Again, not always. There's definitely a lot of legit people doing this. But then on top of that, remember that people are only showing you their highlights. They're showing you often their best approaches, where things went smoothly. Even when they're writing about it, they're removing all the nitty-gritty details of when they were awkward or clunky or asked a question that fell flat. They don't often post as much about their rejections and when things didn't go well. So you're getting only a limited view of how things really are. And it makes you feel insecure because you see guys do this and they have this perfectly cut video with like cuts in between of 5 minutes of perfectly smooth conversation, and you don't see all the other mistakes and mishaps that happen behind the scenes. That's why I really respect the few people that really open up about their failures and even show them on camera. Now, I obviously have some photos and videos from me talking to people and also clients at our different retreats and in-person events. But I've never really made that a focus of my coaching because, again, I think it's not really representative of the whole experience. But additionally, I also think it's kind of ethically gray area, where I know a lot of these guys aren't even getting permission to record these women. And even when they do, it's still a little awkward that they don't realize fully that they're just basically being studied like a National Geographic documentary. So all I'm saying is be cautious of people who are only posting perfectly polished videos of just these incredible interactions all the time, because that is an unfair way to compare yourself. Instead, measure yourself around your own success, no matter how small. If you're trying to put yourself out there every day, if you're growing and challenging your comfort zone, then you are making progress and you should be really proud of that. That leads me to my next point, that approaching countless women isn't the answer to all your problems. Again, because seeing men talk to women and having it go well is just so enticing, a lot of guys get into the idea that all they have to do is just start approaching relentlessly and then they'll get confident and they'll get good at this stuff. Yes, getting a volume of experiences approaching strangers will help somewhat. It will desensitize you to these experiences, it will help you prove that you can do it, and it'll get you a little bit more smooth, but you also need to be practicing wisely. And that's where many guys get misled, is they just try to learn a funny line or try to act a certain way, and they get countless approaches in, but they're always performing. They're always in their head, they're always trying to be smooth, they're always trying to impress, and what does that do? That never helps you actually learn to be present or authentic or build real self-worth. And I can't tell you how many guys I've known in the pickup industry, in the dating industry, clients who've been like, I've approached hundreds of girls and I'm still kind of terrified doing it every time, or I get poor results. I've had another guy recently tell me that he's been to like 3 or 4 of these boot camps over the years, and yet when he goes home, he's still really scared about doing it. He feels shameful. He really can't kind of get out of his head in those moments, and it's because he's practicing the wrong way. Quality beats quantity. I would rather you show up to a few conversations with women where you actually try to like slow down, look them in the eyes, relate honestly, ask questions you genuinely give a shit about, and just try to be really present with them and drop the mask. Doing that a few times and really being vulnerable and exposed will do so much more for your self-worth and self-confidence, and you also get better results. But if you're just constantly approaching and reinforcing bad habits, where you're like walking up to girls and you're asking fake lines and you're like trying to act cool and aloof and you're in your head thinking about the next thing, you will never really grow, and you will still be frustrated years later at why you can't just be a genuinely confident human being. And last, getting laid will not make you happy. At least not for long. Sex sells better than almost anything else. I mean, what else is more enticing than the prospect of betting a beautiful woman? But men become obsessed with this idea, and they think it's the answer to all their problems, right? They come to me and they say, I just need to like start getting women. I need to like have sex again and get out of this rut. I need to find a girlfriend. If I can just do these things, then I'll be happy. But trying to fill an internal void with external validation never works. I think sex is healthy and important, but it is not a cure for low self-esteem or depression. And in fact, it can actually make men feel worse when they finally do all this work to start sleeping with attractive women, and then they don't feel better about themselves, and they realize that they're still the same person wrestling with those same demons. I know way too many guys who only focused on women for a lot of their life, including me, and then they're still pretty miserable about it. That's why I love Neil Strauss, who wrote the book The Game, which started kind of this whole pickup and dating coaching industry, because maybe a decade later, he wrote a sequel to it called The Truth, which most men have never even heard about. He says, basically, everything I said in that first book is wrong and unhealthy and destructive, and it ruined my personal connections with women and my marriage, and you should steer clear of it. And that took a lot of guts, because basically he was a god in the industry, and after that everybody kind of crapped on him and said, oh, this guy's a loser, but he told it how it is. So that means you need to start investing in yourself all around. Work on your health, work on your mental health and see a licensed professional if you need to. Build your social circle and learn to just get out and try new hobbies. Find passions, switch careers if you need to find more fulfilling work, and just kind of round yourself out as an individual. And coincidentally, you will end up also being infinitely more attractive to women. But as cheesy as it is, you have to become happy with yourself and learn to love yourself with or without a girl in the picture. So I'm not saying all this to necessarily tear anyone down. That's why I didn't list any names. And I'm not trying to say I'm the best dating coach out there. I just know that a lot of men have been misled in this industry, and a lot of them now, because of it, are also turning down a dark path. My advice? Learn some of these things, take these ideas to heart, and then apply it for yourself. That's what really changes you. There's so much information out there that you have all the knowledge you need to grow. You just need to actually go do it. So my advice to you is understand some of these ideas, watch a few videos or whatever you want to do to feel like, great, I understand something, but then spend more time applying that in the real world. That's what changed me. Not just reading hundreds of books or digesting endless amounts of videos, but actually getting out and integrating myself into real social situations. You don't need another YouTube video to do that, even if it's from me. Now, before you go talk to that woman, just hit the subscribe, click the notification bell, and throw us a like on the video.